Alright, hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name's Curtis, and today we're going to be talking about a note that took me a long time to become accustomed to. And the note I'm talking about today is oud. So there are some ouds. Oud can have many different facets, and that's something that I've learned over the years, is oud can come off in so many different ways. And a lot of times it also depends on how it's combined with other notes. But I've really grown to appreciate the note of oud, and yeah, I've gone through my collection and I've chosen 5 fragrances that feature the note of oud. And the oud comes off in those fragrances in different ways, so I'll be talking a little bit about that. So if you're curious to see the fragrances that I've chosen, then let's go. All right, first up, from the house of Paris Monte Carlo, we have OUD Imperial. So this is oud with character. It's dark, earthy, smoky, and slightly medicinal, but man, it is a gorgeous oud fragrance. Now, this one was perfumed by one of my favorite perfumers, Luca Maffei, and I think what really turned me on to him and his work was what he did with the fragrance Rose de Taif by Paris Monte Carlo, the extrait version. And I've featured that fragrance many times on the channel before because I'm a huge rose lover. And he's also the perfumer behind this one, OUD Imperial. But yeah, he's done a phenomenal job here. When you wear this, it's kind of like a I'm not playing around type of scent. Like, it's like, I'm here. Look at me. Like, it is, this fragrance does come off dominant in my opinion. It's a unisex fragrance, but it leans very, very masculine. It's just very dark and a bit moody, I would say. And if you were gonna relate this fragrance to a color, I would say it's the color black. That's how, it just comes off to me. And especially when you move into the dry down of this fragrance, it becomes very smoky and leathery. So, for those reasons, I would say that this is definitely more of a cold weather fragrance. If you were trying to pull this off in the summer or spring, I just feel like it wouldn't match the mood of this fragrance so well. Of course, wear fragrance when you want, wherever you want. But for me, in my opinion, I feel like this is a darker fragrance that fits really well in the colder seasons, like in fall and winter. But yeah, OUD Imperial is definitely a good one to check out. And Paris Monte Carlo as a fragrance house is definitely one of those houses that's extremely underrated in my humble opinion. So yeah, if you're not familiar with this house, definitely check them out. So yeah, if you can, get yourself a sample of OUD Imperial by Paris Monte Carlo. Next up, from the house of Maison Crivelli, we have Oud Maruja. So this one is a statement maker. It's such a beautiful, wonderful play between the oud and the passion fruit in this fragrance. And yeah, it will grab people. It's an attention grabber for sure. Not only because of the smell, but also because of the performance with this. So, to each his own, spray as much as you like. But for me, what I found that works best for me, whenever I wear this one, I do one spray to the back of the neck and that's it. Because this one is a room filler. The sillage is massive and the longevity is eternal. So you have to understand when you're wearing a fragrance like this, that it is a commitment. Like, not only in terms of his performance, but it's not coming off the skin. Like, you can take 1 shower or 2 showers and you smell it and you can still smell it there. So it is a definite commitment for sure. But I would say in terms of the oud in here, it's not a barnyardy or skanky oud. It's a very, easy on the nose oud. And I think too, I don't think this is real oud in here, to be honest. I haven't done enough research about it to check out exactly, but I do feel like it's notes that are combined to give off that kind of oud smell. Yeah, I don't think it's real oud in here, but it does kind of more so push into that like westernized oud direction. But one thing I love about this is it's just such a nice contrast between the bright, tart passion fruit and the subtle darkness of that oud. The interplay there is just really, really nice. So yeah, like I said before, if you are gonna wear this one, it is a commitment. So you have officially been warned. If you can, get yourself a sample of Oud Maruja by Maison Crivelli. All right, next up from the house of Sarah Baker, we have Ludo. Yeah, so Sarah Baker is more so of a recent fragrance house discovery for me. I have heard a few other people talk about this house and I was really intrigued. And also on the topic of oud, like for me personally in my own fragrance journey, I've really been getting into the note of oud, kind of like I said before. And what I noticed about Sarah Baker is they've created 3 fragrances kind of in a 30 ml sample set that definitely focus on the note of oud, and they were all perfumed by Chris Maurice, who's I think really known for he works really well with gourmand fragrances as well as oudy gourmand fragrances. That's kind of his thing, and so he's perfumed all 3 of those fragrances. So those fragrances are Symmetry, Ludo, and also Gold Spot. And I featured Gold Spot in a I think my last video featured Gold Spot. And I think what's interesting about those 3 fragrances is they all kind of feature like that similar note of oud. You can definitely tell that all 3 of those fragrances are related in some way. I would say out of those 3, Ludo definitely features that note of oud in terms of its prominence. You can definitely pick up oud in all 3 of those, but this one really pushes it in your face. But I really enjoyed the wearing experience of this one. And what I like about this one is you definitely have that animalic oudiness, and that's combined with a subtle freshness and a bit of sweetness, but it doesn't come off like overly sweet or like it doesn't really push into that gourmand territory. But yeah, that sweetness comes off is quite comforting in my opinion. And you know, you look at this fragrance in terms of opposites. You kind of have like on one end of the spectrum, you have that animalic oudiness, and then on the other end, you have that kind of fresh, but also kind of sweet, borderlining gourmand territory of the fragrance. But those polar opposites just marry together so well. And I enjoy the entire wearing experience of this fragrance. Yeah, it was done extremely well. Yeah, I would say if you're someone who is definitely becoming accustomed to the note of oud, this might be a challenging one to get used to because, like I said before, it does have that animalic or slightly barnyardy presence. But again, this is just blended so well, and like I said, those opposites just really attract. Yeah, this is a great one, definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Ludo by Sarah Baker. All right, next up from the house of Maxime Perfume, we have OUD Indin. So in my experience with Maxime Perfume, they are extremely good at creating fragrances that take you on a journey. From beginning to end, this fragrance is such an amazing wearing experience. And one thing that I'll say is this fragrance was gifted to me by the brand, and I have received another fragrance from them in the past, which is called Cafe Mystique, and I've featured that fragrance on the channel about 3 or 4 times. And for me, I really loved the wearing experience of that fragrance. It's kind of I would say almost like it was like an amber floral fragrance. It had some coffee, a bit of oud in it, but the journey that fragrance took me on was just second to none. And OUD Indin is no different. This one is such a well done and well blended fragrance, and I'm just so impressed with the quality of work here. And one thing that I really appreciate about this brand in general is they really focus on naturals. So all of their fragrance are 95 to 100% natural, and you can definitely tell that the ingredients are such highly sourced that, yeah, it's apparent upon first spray. And that's something that I really appreciate. Yeah, so basically on initial spray with this one, you definitely get a heavy blast of cardamom and saffron. So you have that spiciness there, but you get that vanilla and beeswax that start to come in to round out the edges of that spiciness. And also with this one, I'm definitely picking up on a bit of tobacco. So I'm almost kind of getting like a honeyed tobacco type vibe, which is interesting because there isn't any tobacco listed in the notes of this fragrance, but for some reason, I'm picking up kind of like a honeyed tobacco type vibe, which I find extremely pleasant. So in the dry down of this fragrance is where you kind of really start to see the oud take over, but that oud is wrapped and surrounded by some very rich cocoa, which is providing kind of like a chocolatey sweetness to this fragrance that I absolutely love. And I've been wearing this fragrance for the past 3 days, so I've definitely spent a bit of time with this, and I understand how this fragrance kind of transforms and works throughout its life. And like I said before, it takes you on a journey. And I'll be doing a full review of this fragrance on the channel very soon. I'll try to get it done today if I can. But yeah, this is such a well done fragrance. It's just kind of dark, sexy, chocolatey, oudy, and just very addictive in my opinion. And performance is extremely good. Now I sprayed this on my skin last night as well before I went to bed, and I've taken a shower this morning and I can still smell it on my skin. Yeah, performance is definitely there, and it has a very beautiful sillage to it. Like I said before, I pick up on like a tobacco kind of honeyed vibe. But yeah, it's just so well done. It's definitely a high quality fragrance. So if you can, get yourself a sample of OUD Indochine by Maxime Perfume. And finally, from the house of MFK, we have OUD Satin Mood. All right, and this is probably the fragrance on this list that, even though oud's in the name, I don't really pick up a whole lot on the note of oud. What I do kind of get is kind of like a slightly powdery, jammy, rosy experience, with just some very, very subtle oud, ever so slightly tucked in the background. But I'll tell you a little story, and I've told this story on the channel before, but when I first got this fragrance, I had the bright idea of, oh yeah, let me put 3 sprays on, 1, 2, 3, and I'll just go to a cafe. Not a good idea. I went into that cafe, I sat down, I cleared that spot. You see people get up in the masses and leave. And it was at that time I realized that, oh my gosh, they're leaving, number 1, because of me, and number 2, this fragrance is a beast. Like, nuclear type of performance. You know, I was so embarrassed. Number 1, I probably didn't choose the right setting. It was during kind of the morning when I went to that cafe. And number 1, I didn't choose the right setting to wear this fragrance. And number 2, 3 sprays was too many. Now I understand that it's 1 spray on the back of the neck. That's all I personally need. And you know, but of course it's to each his own. Spray as much as you like, whatever works best for you, your atmosphere, how you like to convey fragrances to others. For me, I really enjoy subtlety. You know, I don't like to announce myself before I get into the room. That's kind of what I did here. I was kind of like shoving this in everybody's face, and it was just a bit overwhelming, the experience for everybody, which I understand. Lesson learned. Yeah. And also, if you didn't know, I live in Japan, so fragrances, again, subtlety is very important here. So yeah, lesson learned. But from now on, it's 1 spray, that's it. But I do enjoy the wearing experience of this fragrance. I would say in the beginning, when I first wore this, the powderiness of this fragrance it took me a bit to get used to, but now I do really, really enjoy the experience of this one. But like I said before, I can't really pick up on a whole lot of oud in here. It's here, but it's very subtly tucked into the background. But basically this fragrance I would classify as like a rose oud fragrance. Just the oud isn't so present. At least it's not on my skin. Your experience might be different. But it's definitely a good one and an enjoyable fragrance to wear. So if you can, get yourself a sample of OUD Satin Mood by MFK. Alright guys, so that's all I have for you for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content, and let me know down in the comments section, have you tried any of the fragrances that I've shown you today? What are your thoughts and opinions on them? I'd love to hear about them. Alright, well I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.